There are many more bodies like this in different bodies throughout the world. Europe, in Africa, Peru, in the United States. Well, as far as I know, this is not fake. But yeah, it's real. There's many bodies, at least 50 to 100 bodies throughout the world that are being kept. But soon enough, they'll find a way to prove that it's fake. They don't want the information to come out. It's power and control. Money, if you want to call it that. Because if this is real, and this traveled here in a spaceship, and the energy was not fossil fuels, the question is, how did they get here?
A lot of really weird things are happening, but you agreed to do this as a continuation of the Pyramid Code series. So far, part 1 came out, part 2 came out, and now I hope for this to be part 3 with a really interesting conversation. A lot of people sent in questions, so that's my paper right here. And I really just want to go into a lot of different directions. Now, if it's okay with you, I know that you want to focus on the Pyramid Code, but there's a lot of other topics going on in the world. Specifically, just a few days ago, there were tsunami warnings and earthquakes, one in Japan. There was an earthquake in New York City, right by Astoria, Queens, 1.7 magnitude. Really weird things are starting to happen. And I want to understand what you know about that. So maybe we can keep that for the end of this interview. But for now, my prime focus is going to be your prime focus, which is the Pyramid Code. Is that okay with you?
Yes, go ahead.
Is there anything you want to say before we dive into what we're going to speak about?
No, I'm ready.
Okay. So the first question has to do with the spirit world. There's something that you mention in the document all the time about the spirit world and all these laws and how the spirit world dictates the laws in the physical world and so on and so forth. Can you elaborate on what you mean by the spirit world in the Pyramid Code document?
Everyone, everybody has a soul, as we know. The soul represents the spiritual world, and the body represents the physical world. The brain that operates your entire body by being controlled by the soul is a combination of the spiritual and physical world, intertwined together. In the beginning of time, man used to be 90% in the spirit world and 10% in the physical world. Today, it's opposite. It's 10-90.
What do you mean by that when you say 90%? Like, what does that actually look like?
If you look at today's world, on humanity, most people are very much into the physical world, materialistic things. They're getting away from nature. They're getting away from God. They're getting away from the divine. They don't believe in anything. They believe in money. They believe in power. They believe in governments. They believe in physical leaders. So it's a process that evolved over many, many years. Unfortunately, most people today are 90% physical and 10% spiritual. Some people are not even that. So that's what I mean when I said physical and spiritual world.
So you focused on the physical side. Can you elaborate on what 90% spiritual looks like in action?
The spiritual world will bring you to a more positive way of living. No wars, no lies, more transparency, more unity, no borders, no religions. Spirituality hates religion, and religion doesn't really like spirituality, although that's the way the religious leaders represent it in the world today. But in the spirit world, they are enemies.
Let's talk about religion for a second. We'll go back to the Pyramid Code. So a few thousand years ago, I don't remember the dates off the top of my head, but a few thousand years ago, you wrote what you wrote in that document from your firsthand memories. How did religion play a role at that point in time? Were they more spiritual back then? Were they more religious? Did religion exist in the way that it exists today?
They were more spiritual, but very far from being 90%. Religion was created by man in order to control the masses. If you pay attention, it's really a book of laws that dictates how you have to live. Most of it is very positive things. I have nothing against it. However, it was in order to control the masses. They created a religion. They gave it a name. They gave it a prophet. Either Moses, Muhammad, Jesus, whatever you want to call it. But it was all created by man. Spirituality disappeared from this world, and it became more and more physical. So transparency was gone. Deceit, lies, and wars came into play. And that's where we are today. We're in a very, very low place today spiritually.
Again, let's go back to religion. I'll give you my opinion, and then I want to hear yours. I agree with you in terms of control and control of the masses and all that. But when you look at the books, if you want to look at the Quran, the Torah, the New Testament, they're beautiful books in and of themselves. In my opinion, the problem was what was done with those books after. So my question for you is, do you believe the books are corrupted? Or do you believe that there was a clean and clear base in terms of its potential, and we took it to a negative place as human beings with our own free will?
It's a combination of the two.
Can you elaborate?
Most people believe that the Bible was written by God, and the Bible is the base for Christianity and Islam. They all base their religion off the Bible.
When you say the Bible, you're talking about the Old Testament.
Yes, but the Bible, it was written by man. Therefore, there's a chance for corruption.
1 second. We always have these conversations, and now I want to put it on record, because sometimes people think that because I interview you, I agree with you. I don't agree with you on this one, and I want to make that clear. And maybe I'll even prove something to you through your own logic in a way. You're saying, from our prior conversations, that the Bible was not written by God, it was written by a human being. I agree with you. That's what it tells us. If you go to the Old Testament, it says, Moses went, received this basically download of information and laws and codes and so on and so forth, came down over a period of time, him and his helpers basically documented this. And that's where the Old Testament came from, and it kept going. Where I disagree with you is the fact that who's to say that that doesn't come from a higher place, and why is that higher place not a divine source? Because just like, not comparing myself to any of those individuals, but there are people like myself and many others that we get downloads. You sit there and you receive like, wow, this is a realization, a revelation. Now, it may not be original because somebody else may have thought about it, but it's original in your own experience of when it came to being and where it came from. I would say in that way, that download of information, whatever you want to call it, came from somewhere, and that's something, by your definition of God or divine or source, that's what it is. So how can you sit here and tell me that those books were not written by that? I agree with you that they weren't physically written by that, but I think we can both agree that they were inspired by that.
No, I agree they were inspired. Yes, absolutely. But everything is connected to source. Even though somebody committed murder yesterday, it's connected to source somehow. It doesn't mean that murder is a positive thing.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that the source downloaded the information to go kill somebody. We don't understand the process. So anything that we don't understand in life, we decided to call it God. Hitler happened for a reason. We might not understand or agree with the reason that it happened. But you have to agree with me that he did not come out of nowhere. It's connected. Everything in life that happens to you, that happens to this world, is connected to source.
So you don't believe that it's possible that something that was basically transmuted or went through a human vessel could not be corrupted? Is that what you're telling me?
If we agree that Moses was inspired by the source, by the divine, came down, and eventually wrote it down, but if you learn history, Moses did not write it down. The Bible was written down by, if I'm not mistaken, his name was Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi or something. That was his name. And he decided to take the Bible and put it in writing.
No.
Yes.
No, you're talking about two different things. You're talking about the fact that there's the written Torah, the written Old Testament, and then in Hebrew they call it Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is the oral Torah, which that was written down, and that, I'm willing to agree with you, may have been corrupted over time by broken telephone. Fine. But if you go to the source, again, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is true. All I'm asking you is, maybe you're wrong, and maybe it does come from a very high place.
You're mixing two things. Torah Sheba'al Peh, how do you say it in English?
The oral Torah.
The oral Torah that you're talking about was written the way you said it many years later. But the written Torah that you're speaking about, when was it written? When Moses came down, he didn't come down with the full Torah. He came with the 10 Commandments, which he broke the first one, and then he went back and he got the second one, correct? So far, so good? How did he bring the Torah to be written down? How did he make it happen?
It needed to happen over time by writing.
Yeah, but the way they did it, he was teaching the Torah to a group of students. Now, there are no microphones at that time. And the way it was going from father to son and father to son that started with Moses, it was going for generations. And people were sitting in rows of 100, 200, and they basically had to yell and scream the information. Now, that's according to, if you go to the Hebrew teaching too, you speak any rabbi. That's the way it was written down. What is the likelihood that somebody's telling somebody in this row, and this row is telling this row, eventually when they write it down, there needs to be a mistake. You're dealing with human beings. What is the likelihood of a mistake?
Fair, if you put it that way. Okay.
Okay, so there's got to be a mistake there. There's got to be changes other than what God inspired you to write, because Moses did not write the Bible. He gave it from one person to another in very large groups. So the likelihood of a mistake is huge. Now they would tell you, take any Bible from any source in the world, and you're going to check. You're going to see that it's the same exact letters, same exact lines, which is true. And they're saying it could only, if you go to Africa, if you go to America, if you go to Europe and you find Bibles from hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they all say the same thing. That's true. And they're claiming there was no internet at the time, there was no telephones. How do you explain that everything is written in the same way? Because it was written in such a way, and it got to a point thousands of years ago, whatever it is, and they put it in a certain method, and they spread it around the world. This doesn't mean God wrote it. A human being intelligent enough has to be a highly intelligent person, first of all, to write the Bible. It's probably more than one person. But let's assume Moses was inspired by God, put it down, and it's only one person who did it. The way they transfer the information had to be built with mistakes. And if there's one mistake in the Bible, according to the Jewish leaders, it's canceled. You can't use it. You have to bury it. This Torah is gone.
So 1 second, let's go to Moses for a second. Moses is spoken about in this document very, very clearly in ways that I'm scared to, make public. So I want to make this clear that this isn't me saying it. This is you sharing it. And these are your opinions. And not just your opinions, but in your case, your memories. So let's talk about that for a second. What do you know about Moses? Do you believe or consider Moses to be a highly spiritual individual? Because you said highly intelligent. Intelligent doesn't mean spiritual. I know a lot of intelligent people that don't believe that you have a soul. So can you elaborate on Moses as an individual in the best way that you can?
So you're asking for specific information?
And before you answer, where are you getting this from? For anybody who hasn't read the document, and I always encourage everybody to do that, where are you getting what you're about to say from? Let's first start with the source, and then what you're going to say.
As you know, I'm giving my information regarding this specific timeline from previous reincarnations.
Now, again, I know I always stop you when you say that. I understand that. There are people in the world that don't. I don't want you to go and start explaining it again because you've done it multiple times through our interviews. So for anybody who's watching this right now, I highly recommend watching previous interviews with Ray so you can hear his explanation scientifically of reincarnation and its basis. I just wanted to get that out of the way, but keep going.
In this one specific reincarnation, which is really my first reincarnation in this universe, I've been here multiple times. And I have a memory of most of my reincarnations, or some of my incarnations.
Just a quick question. How many do you know that you were here for, and how many do you remember of those?
69. I remember 23 vividly.
So about a third.
About a third, yes.
Exactly a third.
Yes, but I know of others because I was told about it, not because I remember. This specific reincarnation that you're talking about, I remember. It's my first reincarnation in this world.
So let's get back to Moses before we go on that whole tangent. What do you know? What do you remember? What can you share?
He was the leader of the Hebrews, Israelites, the Jewish people, whatever you want to call them. He was leading them out of slavery into Israel. Everybody knows the story more or less. Again, going back to the Bible gives you one story. Most of it is correct. But some of the information there I know for a fact is not correct. For example, the Bible will tell you that it took them 40 years to cross the desert. which is not true. It took them 10 years. In reality, you could cross it in 3 or 4 months. The reason Moses chose to do it over such a long time, 10 years, not 40, is to get rid of the existing generation because they were slaves for many years, and he wanted to create a new nation, a new country, but you couldn't do it with the people with the slave mentality. That's the reason for the 10 years. They could have done it much faster. So most of the story in the Bible about Moses is correct, but there's a lot of negative things that I prefer not to mention here because I'm not sure you're going to like it or your viewers are going to like it because he is not a very positive person.
Whatever happened, I want you to share it transparently. And again, whoever wants to take it, including me, you take what you want, you leave what you don't, you move on. But I think just go for it.
I don't think it's a smart thing to do in this interview. I wrote many things that you published. I think you published everything so far. Am I correct?
There is a portion of the Pyramid Code that you're probably referring to where you say he didn't, in the Bible it says he killed 24,000 and it's really 250,000 or something like that.
Well, again, if you're going to take Moses, according to the Bible, with the information in the Bible, Moses today would be considered a serial killer. That's one thing. I don't think we should talk about it because it might offend some people, and we're not here to offend anybody. Same thing I can tell you about Jesus. Same thing I can tell you about Muhammad. But that's not the purpose of this discussion. Was Moses a highly intelligent person? Was he a highly spiritual person? Yes, but he was a human. And like every human, we have our faults. Nobody's perfect. And he wasn't perfect either.
Okay, I'm just going to push you. I'm Jewish, you're Jewish, I'll take the slack from the Jewish people. Just speak freely, I think it's important.
I don't want to do it. Not in this interview. We have to discuss it with me. And you first. It's got to be done with sensitivity to other people, and I don't think it's smart. I have a lot of information that is my truth, that might offend other people, and might speak against the information in the Torah, and that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem for the Jews, for the Christians, maybe even to some of the Muslims, because everybody is basing their religion on the Bible. Before the New Testament, before the Quran. This is their base. So I think we should stay away from it, because if you want to bring information about Moses, why don't you bring information about Jesus or Muhammad? It's not going to be a nice scenario here. I don't think you're going to be happy, and I don't think your viewers are going to be happy.
Then let's go to the next topic. In the Pyramid Code, it speaks about 4 different extraterrestrial races that came a few thousand years ago for specific purposes. Can you elaborate on that? I know it speaks about in the document, but now that I have you here, you have certain memories. What can you share? And again, just shoot whatever you want, and anybody that wants to go deeper can read the document. But what can you share about those 4 extraterrestrial races? Is there a significance to the fact that only 4 came? Why did they come? What did they do? And so on and so forth.
There were 4 different planets that were about to basically disappear. They knew when those planets were going to disappear. Those entities that lived on those planets. A decision from above was made. I don't know by whom, but the decision was made. Let's move them onto Earth.
Let's talk about that for a second, because there's a lot to uncover. You're saying that they knew that these planets were, what do you mean by disappear? What does disappear mean?
Demolished. Every planet has a date. And eventually they just self-destruct, I would say.
Every planet?
Most planets are being diminished, and they rebuild themselves from the start. It's an evolution of billions and billions of years.
The only way that I can make sense of that is, again, just in terms of how things work physically. If something has a start date, something has an end date. But let's go to what you're talking about for a second. You're saying that even if they're highly evolved and treating the planet very, very well and everything's going well, no matter what, you're saying at some point, each planet has an expiration date.
Most planets.
Why are you saying most? What's the exclusion?
There are some planets that, as far as I know, are here forever and will stay forever.
Are they physical places?
Yes.
But if they had a start date, then don't they have to end?
No. Who said there's a start date?
Do you have any knowledge when it comes to the expiration date of Earth?
No, I don't.
Do you believe that we're going to make it through the next 100, 200, 300 years and it will still be here? Because there are a lot of people in power. I don't like those people, you don't either, but there are a lot of people in power that they basically scare us into thinking that we have like 50 years left.
No, I believe we have plenty of time. It's not hundreds of years, and it's not thousands. Plenty of time. Will there be chaos in the world? Yes, but I'm not talking about destruction by humans who are destroying the world. I'm talking about self-destruction of this planet by itself. It's like somebody dies and reincarnates, so therefore a planet dies and reincarnates.
So it's not like a response to these people are doing something bad, we need to stop.
No, it's a process that needs to happen. The same way that humans die, planets die. It's not because you're a bad guy or you did something wrong. That's just the way things are going.
Let's go back to the extraterrestrials. So now you're saying there were 4 planets with 4 different types of entities or races on it, extraterrestrials, life, whatever you want to call it, and they knew that the expiration date was coming. So they went and found a new home. Am I understanding that the right way?
Yeah, it was a master plan to repopulate those entities on planet Earth.
Why Earth? Why not go to another planet?
In this case, it was planet Earth. There are many other cases. It happens all the time. They go to different planets.
And they just start over?
And they start over. Yes. Why are you so surprised?
I never thought about it.
Well, take Sia, for example. We spoke about it before. I told you, Sia people used to live very long lives. Because of the water situation, people are dying much faster now. They lost 50% of their lifespan in the last 100 years, 200 years. Eventually, unless you're going to repopulate them somewhere else, or transfer them to somewhere else, to a planet where they can physically live, there will be nobody left there. It's going to be like a place like Mars. There's nobody there. So can Mars eventually self-destruct? Yes. Can humans destroy Mars? Yes.
Do you believe that Mars ever had life on it?
Every planet had life on it.
Let's come back to Earth. Again, focused on the pyramid code. So they came here. How did they get here? You're talking like crafts?
Yes.
How many? Millions? 10?
I don't know.
A lot?
A lot, of course. You know, it was a big-sized population, and they went to 4 corners of the world.
Can you identify those 4 corners?
I don't remember the names, but basically it was the Middle East, it was South America, it was Europe, and it was Africa. In different locations. And they assimilated with the natives at the time. Transparency was much more acceptable at that time. So they knew they came. Different people or different entities showed up suddenly in Africa or the Middle East. They perceived them as the sons of God. They saw them as God, for their understanding, for the humans that were on planet Earth. They respected them as gods. That's the way they viewed them.
Did they have any prior knowledge to the fact that there was life outside of their planet at the time for the people living on Earth?
They were teaching about it. Yes, they were teaching that other planets exist. There were teachings that spoke about other planets. They spoke about the sun and the moon. Most people at the beginning of time saw the sun as God. They worshipped the sun because they figured the sun is God. Others worshipped the moon. They worshipped the trees. Everybody worshipped something else. Eventually the leaders of each group, or each continent, or whatever you want to call it, started giving them the right teaching. Where did they get the knowledge from? I don't know. This was before the Bible came in. Before this information came to the world as we know it today. They started to talk to them about gods because monotheism did not exist until the reincarnation of Abraham. He was the very first one who came in with monotheism, which is the belief in one God. Before they believed there were many gods, he was the first one to come into the world and represent to the world that there's only one God.
Would you consider Abraham, or do you know anything about Abraham being the soul or person that he was, as a very highly spiritual being?
I don't know him personally, but he had to be. But again, he's human. It's written in the Bible, the information from the Bible. If the information in the Bible is correct, he has a lot of faults in him too. It's in the Bible. Just read the story. There's a lot of things that are unacceptable in our books today, but we are not going to get to it also. But again, they were highly involved individuals. They lived usually very long lives. They had babies at the age of 100 and 150, 200 and 300.
You're talking about the individuals that lived on planet Earth?
Yes.
Okay, but now these beings come in, and what's their plan?
Their plan was to take over planet Earth, which they did. They were the leaders, but the new generation started assimilating with the natives. They were not supposed to, but they did, and they started mating with the females on planet Earth. And this is where the cross-contamination started.
One second. First of all, in the Bible, it literally says in the beginning of the book, in Hebrew, we won't get into the Hebrew, but It says the sons of God. If you look at the translation, the sons of God came down from the heavens and mated with the daughters of man. My question is, why is there an emphasis on the daughters of man? Why didn't the women sleep with the sons of man?
I don't know, but that's the way things happen, I guess. That's the divine plan. I have no clue. But the men mated with the female humans.
Your superior boss, whatever you want to call her in TLS, mentioned that that was a very important part of history. And she encouraged me to learn about it, and she said that there's mysticism behind that whole experience of what that really means and how religions came into being, and this cross-contamination ended up causing a division in the consciousness of human beings and all life on Earth, basically, but there will come a point where none of that will exist anymore and we'll be united again. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not sure what you mean.
She told me you have to learn more about that whole point in history, specifically focusing on the sons of God sleeping with the daughters of man and what that did spiritually.
I'm not sure about what conversation you're talking about. But basically those entities who came from other planets, 4 different planets, were highly evolved entities who eventually became humans. So the first generation there to basically come and become leaders, to take control, teach the new teaching to humanity, and help them evolve spiritually to their level and even higher. But for some reason, the new generation of those entities decided that they're going to go elsewhere. That means I don't think it's a problem for the Son of God, those entities, to mate with the female here on Earth. I don't think this was the issue. The issue was that instead of instilling their spirituality into the female human and the newborn, they lost their spirituality and followed society at the time that was not as clean and pure as those entities were.
So there's a lot of narratives going on in the world today focused on what they call the Anunnaki. Basically, extraterrestrials that came from elsewhere and did some form of genetic manipulation. Now, people always think about that in terms of they paint pictures of labs and genetically manipulating human beings in laboratories. Do you know anything about that?
I have no connection to the Anunnaki whatsoever, but I can tell you for sure, there is no such a thing as labs in changing DNA. DNA will change by assimilation and mating. Yes, this is true, but there was no lab there. I think people don't know what they're talking about, or they make stuff up, and that's not true.
So what you're saying is genetic manipulation was done through the act of having sex with 2 different gene pools, not going in with tools and manipulating things.
Correct, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What went wrong is them losing their spirituality and following the female, instead of the female following him, and her children following the new father, and learning about spirituality and the connection to nature and the connection to God, and slowly, within one generation to another, they went from 90% to the 10%. And that's where everything went wrong, and eventually, those entities disappeared from the face of the earth, and they became one with humans.
While we're on the topic of extraterrestrials, recently there was a discovery of literal physical alien bodies that were discovered in Mexico. And there's a lot of talk about them. Some people say it's fake. Some people say it's real. I have a picture right here on the phone. I want you to see it. You've probably seen it before. But do you know anything about that? Do you know if there's a connection to those 4 races? And do you know if it's even real?
Well, as far as I know, this is not fake. But soon enough, somebody will find a way to convince you that it's fake. There are many more bodies like this in different bodies throughout the world, in Europe, in Africa, Peru, in the United States, that were taken by humans. Usually it's governments. I don't know who took this picture or where it's coming from, but yeah, I know about it. It's real. There's many bodies, at least 50 to 100 bodies throughout the world that are being kept. The Russians have them, the Americans have them, Mexico, Peru, all those places. But soon enough, they'll find a way to prove that it's fake.
They really looked like this?
Some.
Have you ever seen one in person that looks like that?
Similar. I've never seen a live one like this, but I've seen dead bodies like that.
Where?
I've seen them. It doesn't make a difference where. I've seen dead bodies like this before, yes.
Under what context?
Context that I don't want to tell you right now. I'm telling you I saw it. I've never seen a live one like this. I've seen a dead one like this. I saw other live ones that may be similar, but not like that.
Okay, while we're on this topic for a second, the reason why I asked you about them is because I'm actually doing a movie on them specifically, and I'm going to go see them in Mexico in person, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't wasting my time. Are there any pointers that you can give me on what to do when I'm there to make it more interesting, if there's anything you know?
No, just try to get whoever you're interviewing to be as transparent as possible. But I'm sure he'll be limited to the conversation.
You mentioned that you believe in the near future somebody's going to come out with proof that this is fake to really convince everybody that it's not real. What are they afraid of?
Same way they're doing it for many, many years. They don't want the information to come out. At the end of the day, it's power and control. Money, if you want to call it that. Because if this is real, and this traveled here in a spaceship, and the energy was not fossil fuels, the question is, how did they get here? How did they fly so fast? Such a long distance. Where's the energy coming from? And once you have the knowledge about the energy, which is free energy, you're going to have to give free energy to the rest of the world. Now you understand how many trillions of dollars are you talking about that we are all paying for energy that God gave to us for free? And somebody took it, decided to control it, and charge you for it? Same thing with water. You're paying for water. You have a water bill every month. Why? Nobody owns the water but us as human beings. It was given to you by the source, by the divine. It doesn't belong to the government. It doesn't belong to those corporations who sell you the water. Same thing with everything else. They make you pay for things that were given to you. It's your birthright. Energy is one of them.
Let's go to the military for a second, because I know that's very involved with what you're talking about today and the technology that they have that isn't being declassified. You're basically saying back then, in the times of ancient Egypt, there was a very advanced race. With an advanced race comes unity consciousness. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there's something I didn't understand, and a few people asked this question as well. I thought it was a great question. You mentioned that there was a military back then, like people that were a part of like an army. If they were so advanced, why would they need an army?
It's not the army the way you think about an army with tanks and airplanes and bombs. If you don't call it army, call it a police force. Basically, when you have a community, when you have a society, there's certain rules and somebody needs to handle the masses to make sure the rules are being obeyed and being done the right way. But to come and tell you there are tanks and guns and killing, no, that's not the case.
So it wasn't like this is my territory and this is your territory.
No, there was no such a thing, and everybody could travel wherever they want. The only problem, the only place in the world, in the universe, that you have war is here. No planet has wars.
Why do you think that is?
There's spiritual power in every one of them. They think differently. They have no need to kill or conquer anybody. Their main target in life is to reach the source, to advance the world, to do better for the universe.
Do you believe there was ever a point in time, even 50, 100,000 years ago, that there was war somewhere else and they just evolved out of it and we're like the last strand in this point in time?
As far as I know, it was only here. That's my teaching. That's what I learned. There was never a war anywhere. It's only here. Why? Maybe this is a test for somebody or for someone. I don't know. I really don't know. Because it's very sad that we live in a world like this.
But they eventually needed to grow at some point as well and evolve from somewhere, right? They're always evolving. So it sounds like implausible. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds crazy to not think that they might have had it at some point. Again, especially if time doesn't exist and there was no technical beginning of time, but there was a beginning to a specific race. They must have had a learning process. Otherwise, why are they reincarnating as physical beings? They're learning. They're here to learn.
They learn spirituality. We're learning how to build bombs. We're learning how to make money. We're learning how to create poison, and we call it medicine. This is not what they do. They're creating new life, better life, transparent life. The word war is not in their dictionary. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They don't understand why anybody would hate somebody else. They don't have this understanding. And I'm talking to you from experience. It's like for them, they don't get it. Like, if I lied to someone like that, he would be in shock. Why would you lie to me? They don't understand the concept of lying. They're much different entities from us. Spiritually, again, it's all about spirituality. And for us as humans, it's hard to get and understand.
Take Atlantis.
Yes.
Atlantis existed on this planet.
Yes.
They were a very spiritually advanced nation.
Yes.
And they destroyed themselves because they did things that were the opposite.
Because they, again, same thing, they mated with humans. They had technology that started. What really destroyed Atlantis is their technology.
You know, what you're starting to say is making sense. Up until just now, I couldn't really wrap my head around it. 1 second, but I'll tell you why I'm bringing this up. 1 second. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because there are archaeologists that are showing that there were like Star Wars, basically, here on Earth thousands of years ago. But that doesn't mean that different races were doing it from different planets, because all of their findings are happening on this planet. So it could mean that there were different races here that, just like those races came here and eventually diluted, other ones did as well, and the wars happened here. Is that possible?
That's exactly what happened. The war happened here, but those involved were some entities who came from different planets because they came here and they got contaminated. If you remember, I was telling you about entities that are coming here, and there's a process of a year, 2 years, sometimes 3 years, where they teach them how to assimilate in society, become one of us. So nobody can figure out who they are. They have to even learn what to eat. They need physical food to survive. So it takes time. It takes time to train them to become one of us, and hope they will not lose their base, which is their spirituality that's coming from different planets.
Have you seen one transition and lose their base?
No, I did not see that. What I did see is highly evolved humans, not entities. Humans that lost the loyalty to the organization, and they had to be dealt with.
Why?
I guess greed, or I don't know what happened, but something took over them, and they betrayed the organization, and they had to be dealt with.
The organization meaning TLS?
Yes.
Okay, I know you're not going to give me details here. Can you give a big picture of an example of what you're talking about without saying names or anything like that?
Not really. You're asking questions about specific missions that I'm not allowed to talk about. But all I can tell you, highly evolved human beings, they just turned for some reason or another that I don't understand. I don't know all the details, I guess, and they had to be dealt with in a not very nice way.
Instead of focusing on that, let's focus on purification for a second.
I want to say something regarding what we spoke about before. Take the AI technology that's coming into the world right now. This is a type of technology that, if it will happen the way they're planning, and they're planning to do it, it will bring the world to self-destruction. That's what happened in Atlantis. Technology, I'm not saying AI, I don't know what technology they had at the time, but they were very highly evolved, much more advanced than us. What destroyed them is their technology. Somebody on top is losing his mind for one reason or another that you cannot explain, and we have plenty of those here. I don't want to mention names, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. They're creating new technology called AI that could be very good for society as a whole. There could be many good things, but what will happen with this AI, if the government will let it happen, and they probably will, this technology will be used for negative things, for greed, and for control. And this will create such chaos that AI is able to destroy entities, human beings, planets.
Do you believe they'll succeed?
I hope not.
TLS mentioned a date, December 23rd, 2192, meaning a point in time where no matter what happens, we will reach a new era of consciousness on this planet for the better. So if they're so sure about that, that means that what you're saying can't come to fruition.
No, you're wrong. The prediction will happen. But up to the time, the question is how many people will die? How many people will be obliterated? You understand? It's going to be an issue. This is the question.
I want to focus on a really important topic in the document. I don't know how much you remember from this specifically, but I'm going to ask you to go into that memory bank, if you want to call it, and share whatever you can here, because it is the main question when it comes to the Pyramid Code as a whole. And it's regarding what some people call the initiation process in the Pyramid Code document. It's called Barakah, which means, as you said, blessing in Arabic, I believe. And it's basically like a purification process, from my understanding, that every single individual or entity or whatever you want to call them in the royal palace at the time of the pharaohs had to go through in order to gain access to supernatural abilities, whatever you want to call it. Can you speak a little bit more about the Barakah process, what it entails, what it's all about, what we need to know, and how we can make it more accessible to everybody in modern day?
Why are you asking me this question? It's in the Pyramid Code. Just read it. It's much more simpler and there's a lot of details there that you can learn from. Why? Why are we discussing it?
No, because in the document, it basically focuses on the importance of history, where you said you remember that one of the main first things they taught you was history of what? Of the universe, of creation. I didn't really understand that, but we need more. Otherwise, this question wouldn't have come up. A lot of people that ask these questions read the document. We need more. Whatever you can, again, maybe you don't have more, I don't know. But whatever you can share, I think that's the most important thing here, because, again, it's really all about, it's great that we understand history and these stories and abilities and all that, but how does it apply to us? How do we do it?
Let me try to explain.
If you like this video and you want to see more amazing content, go ahead and check out the next video on our channel.